Welcome to my new video series I have entitled Dying Words Experiences from a Hospice Chaplain. I have been a hospice chaplain for more than 20 years. I have ministered to the dying. I have ministered to the family and loved ones of those who are dying. And during that process, I have heard many, many words of those who are dying. Most of the words that I have heard come in the form of questions. Questions such as, what happens next? Will dying hurt? Is there a heaven? Can I be forgiven? I think that when I go through this process and I will address some of the questions that I have heard and continue to hear from the dying, this may be helpful for you as you yourself go through the process of dying or a loved one goes through that same process. Questions such as, well, what about intubation? What about artificial hydration? What about tube feedings? What about pain? All kinds of dying words from those who are dying. I want to make sure that we are all under the understanding of what I tell you next. I am not a doctor. I don't want to be a doctor. I am addressing this from a chaplain's point of view, from a human perspective. I am addressing these questions from what I have heard and how I have responded. I am not addressing this in any form of a clinical way or a medical kind of way. I'm just letting you know what I hear and what I have heard and what I have experienced from people who are dying. 2 weeks before, 1 month before, when they're just diagnosed with a terminal illness, 1 day before, 1 hour before, the moment of. And I want to be able to share with you my experiences. One of the questions of the dying that I quite often hear, probably pretty profoundly from many, many, many people, why does my loved one have to die? Well, when we ask that question, why does my loved one have to die? What we have is we actually have another thought in our mind that comes before that question of why does my loved one have to die? Or why do I have to die? And the thought we have that precedes that question kind of goes like this. I have to ask the question, why do I die? Because what I'm really thinking is I shouldn't have to die. What we're thinking when we ask the question, why does my mom have to die? What you're saying without saying it is my mom shouldn't die. Children shouldn't die. Middle-aged people shouldn't die. But because they do die, that upsets your thought process. Why do people die? What is the biggest cause of death? Well, in my experience of 20 plus years dealing with people who are dying, I can tell you with great specificity, I have learned the answer to that. 100% of people who die, their cause was not because of heart disease. The cause was not because of cancer. The cause was not because of a stroke. The cause of death for 100% of people who die is always the same. People die because they were born. The biggest cause of death for the human condition is birth. If you were born, you will die. 100% of everybody who was born will die. We can say heart disease, we can say cancer, we can say diabetes, we could say a stroke, we could say hardening of the arteries, whatever. Well, that's secondary to the biggest cause. And what is the biggest cause of death? Birth. Birth. We can't avoid it. We can't pray it away. We can't hope it away. Because you had a first birthday, you will have a death day. And that's the way it works. Because we have life, because we have a heart pumping blood through our vessels, because we have oxygen going through our lungs, they will cease. Second reason why, of course, according to Christians like me, I am certainly a born-again, Bible-toting, prayer-reading, Jesus freak. And I don't apologize for that. We will say in our Christian belief that one of the reasons why we die is because of the fall of man. When Adam and Eve fell from grace, God told them, if you do this thing, surely you will die. Well, they ate and they died. And because we all come from Adam and Eve, we have inherited that same human condition. We will die. There's no option. We will die. Another reason why we die is because that's the avenue to get to heaven. Scriptures tell us the perishable body, that's what we now live in, the perishable body must put on imperishability, which means that these bodies that we now have to go away. They have to go away. The mortal body, as the bodies we're in now, have to put on immortality. And then the saying will be fulfilled, death is swallowed up in victory. Oh, where, O death, is thy victory? Where, O death, is thy sting? Almost 100% of folks, when you ask them, especially Christians, would you like to go to heaven? Well, the answer is yes. Yes. Yes, we want to go to heaven. We just don't want to die to get there. You see, in there lies the dilemma. I want to go to heaven, but I don't want to die. Well, brothers and sisters, you can't have it any other way. You can't. In order for us to get to heaven, the body has to die. So as I go through my work as a hospice chaplain, I want to remind you that the reason we have that question of why do people die, you have this supposition thinking, well, people shouldn't have to die. They shouldn't have to die. If we say, for example, well, why do young people die? What you're really saying to yourself without saying it is young people shouldn't die. You see, our thought process is according to what we believe in our understanding and not God's understanding. 100% of everybody who had a birthday will have a death day. I often tell a lot of people when I go into a hospice room and they see me coming, oh, Pastor Tom, can you say a prayer? Can you recite a scripture passage? Can you sing a song that will prevent this? And the answer is no, I can't. I can't. There is no prayer that I can pray. There is no scripture that I can read. There is no song that I can sing that's going to prevent a death. I have learned to accept that. A lot of people will ask me, Pastor Tom, how can you do this all day long? How can you be around so many people that are dying? I say to them, well, it's hard for me to answer that to you because you're not called to do it. But in a very simplistic way, what I do say is, well, this is not how you focus. See, I'm not around people that are dying. I'm around people that are going home to be with the Lord. What is your view of dying? What is your view on death? What are your final words when someone that you love dies? What will be your final words when your time comes? So in the series that I am putting together for you now, I will be answering questions that I have heard from people's dying words. I will give to you what I have experienced, what I have seen, what I have witnessed. Again, not from a medical point of view. I'm not a doctor. And I'm certainly not advising you or your loved ones on what they need to do when they die. What I am suggesting is I'm only sharing with you the experiences I have witnessed when people are dying. I will share with you some of the questions that I have asked, I have been asked, and continue to be asked. For example, I am going to address the question, what happens next? Will I see my loved ones? Will dying hurt? Will I see a light at the tunnel? What about artificial hydration? What about tube feeding? Can my loved one hear me? Questions like that I'm going to address. I will be addressing, is it okay to be cremated? What about suicide? I will be addressing those types of things that I have heard from dying folks. I will be addressing with you over the weeks to come family dynamics and how important they are to the dying individual. Brothers and sisters, let me give you some things to think about. I have gone to funeral homes when I was the only one there. I have gone to funeral homes when the deceased is in the hallway and the family members, part of them are in one room, part of them in another room. I was asked one time by a woman who was passing. She said to me, can you do something with those two daughters of mine? I said, well, what do you mean? And she said to me, you know I'm dying, right, Pastor? I said, yes, I do know that. And she said to me, well, you know I can't die. Well, what do you mean you can't die? And I could hear off in the kitchen two adults arguing back and forth. And what the woman said to me was this, I cannot die until those two daughters of mine can get along. How profound. How profound that the pain that some people experience in the dying process is not from dying. It's from family members. That is incredible. I had a person call me last week from California while I was at the bedside of his mother. He called into the hospice and they put me on the phone and he said to me, Pastor, are you with my mom? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm in California. How much time do I have to get there? And I answered truthfully, I don't know. I don't know. Well, why do you ask? And he said, my mother and I have had a falling out. We haven't talked for years. And I have not had the opportunity to tell her that I was sorry. And I did not have the opportunity to apologize. And I want to be able to tell her that before she dies. So how much time do I have? I don't know, but you should come quickly. Well, he got on a plane. He came from California, and unfortunately, he did not make it in time for his mother's death. And he was very sad, sobbing. And I said to him, as I'm saying to you all now, it's one thing to miss a person's final breath. It's a total different thing that you missed all the breath before that one. These are the things I'm going to address in my series. How to get rid of your pride. How to seek and give forgiveness. So in the weeks ahead, I hope you tune in. I will be posting new videos online. This will be the first one. My series is called Dying Words, Experience of a Hospice Chaplain. And of course, if you have any questions or comments that you would like to make, please put them on my website, on the YouTube channel, and I will answer them. Okay. May you all have a very blessed evening.